steering wheel or on the dash near the window. What do you think of the VIN as a method of vehicles identifications? How do you reconcile it with the recommendation to use meaningless identifiers? If you were consulted on a new VIN system, what you'd advise? Immerse. Find out what the client wants by immersing yourself in the task environment. Spend some time following the client around and participate in daily business. First-hand experience of the problem will give you a greater understanding of the client's requirements. Observe, ask questions, reflect, and talk to a wide variety of people, easy managers, operations personnel, customers, and suppliers. The more you learn about the problem, the better equipped you are to create a high fidelity data model. Challenge challenge existing uh, assumptions, dig out expect the exceptions, test the boundaries of the data model, try to think about the business problem from different perspectives. Easy, how might the industry leader tackle this problem? Run a brainstorming session with the client to simulate the search for breakthrough solutions. Generalize. Reduce the number of entities whenever possible by using generalized structure. Remember the art collection model to simplify the data model. Simpler data models are usually easier to understand and less costly to implement. Expert data modelers can see beyond surface difference to discern the underlying similarities of seemingly different entities. Test. Test the data model by reading it yourself and several people intimately familiar with the problem. Test both directions of every relationship. Is he a farmer, has many cows, and a cow belongs to only one farmer? Build a prototype so that the client. Testing is very important because it costs. Testing is very important because it costs very little to fix a data model, but testing is very important because it costs very little to fix a data model, but a great deal to repair a system based on an incorrect data model. Limit. Set reasonable limits to the time and scope of data modeling. Don't let the data modeling phase continue forever. Discover the boundaries early in the project and stick to this unless there are compelling reasons to extend the project to many repos- repro- representation of human success. ISO authority. No significance is to be placed on the fact that male is coded, one and female is coded. No significance is to be placed on the fact that male is coded and one female and is coded to this standard was developed based upon predominant practices of the countries involved and does not convey any meaning of importance, ranking, or any other basis that could imply discrimination. It, in determining whether an identifier is meaningful, can one can look at the way new values of the identifier are generated. If the creation takes place on the basis of characteristics that appear in reality, the identifier is meaningful. That is why the identifier of the invoice 12-0002, which is the identifier assigned to the second invoice generated in December 2012, is meaningful. It is also why the email address rwatson @terry.uga.edu is meaningful. Meaningful identifiers clearly have some advantage and disadvantage, and these are now considered. Advantage and disadvantage of meaningful Identifiers. Identifiers. Advantage, disadvantage. Advantage. Recognizable and rememberable. Administrative simplicity. Identifier exhaustion. Reality changes. Loss of meaningfulness. Advantage of meaningful identifiers: recognizable and rememberable. People can often recognize and remember the significance of meaningful identifiers. If, for example, someone receives an email from arvaston@terryusa edu, this person can probably deduce the sender's name and workplace. If a manufacturer, for instance, uses the last two digits of its furniture code to indicate the color is 08 equal beige, employees can then quickly determine the color of a packet piece of furniture. Of course, the firm could also show the color of furniture on the label, in which case customers who are most unlikely to know the coding scheme can quickly determine the color of the enclosed product. Administrative simplicity. By using meaningful identifiers, administration can be relatively easily decentralized. Administrating administrating email address, for instance, can be handled at the domain level. This way one can avoid the process of synchronizing with other domains whenever a new email address is created. A second example is the EAN, European Article Number. The barcode on European products issuing EANs can be administered per country, since each country has a unique number in the EAN. When issuing a new number, a country need only issue a code that is not yet in use in that country. The method of contacting all countries to ask whether an EAN has already been issued is time consuming and open to error. On the other hand, creating a central database of issued EAN codes is an option. If every issuer of EAN codes can access such a database, alignment among countries is created and duplicates are prevented. Disadvantage of meaningful identifier. Identifier exhaustion. Suppose a company with a 6-digit item identifier decides to use the first three digits to specify the product group is stationary uniquely. Within this group, the remaining three digits are used to define the item is yellow line pad. As a consequence, only on thousands items can be specified per product group. This problem this problem remains even when some numbers in a specific product group or even when entry product group are not used. Consider the case when product group 010 is exhausted and is supplemented by the still unused product group code 940. What seems to be a simple quick fix causes problems because a particular product group is not uniquely identified by a single identifier. Clients have to remember there is an exceptions. A real world example of identifier exhaustion is a holding company that identifies its subsidiaries by using a code where the first character is the first letter of the subsidiary subsidiary's name. When the holding company uh, acquired its seventh subsidiary, the meaningfulness of the coding system fade. The newly acquired subsidiary name starts with the same letter as one of the existing subsidiaries. The system had already run out of identifiers. When existing Identifiers have to be converted because of exhaustion. Printed codes on labels, packages, shelves, and catalogs will have to bar Bredon. Recordings is an expensive process and should be avoided. Exhaustion is not only a problem with meaningful identified identifiers. It can happen with non-meaningful identifiers. The problem is that meaningful identifiers systems tend to exhaust sooner. To avoid identifier exhaustions and maintain meaningful identifiers, some designers increase identifier length easy 4 digits for product group. Reality changes. The second problems of meaningful identifiers is that the reality they record changes. For example, a company changes its name. The College of Business at the University of Geo- uh, Geo- Georgia was renamed the Terry College of Business. Email address change easy rwaston cba.uga.edu became rwaston@terry.uga.edu, and identifier can remain meaningful over a long period only if the meaningful part rarely or never changes. Non-meaningful identifiers avoid reality changes. Consider the case of most. The inclusion of this single instance entity permits facts about the firm to be maintained. Furthermore, it provides flexibility for expansion. If two fast food chains combine, the data model needs no amend, amendment. Farm a single instance entity. Farm. Farm name, farm street, farm city, farm jeep, farm phone. Store. Store street, store city, store jeep, store phone, store size. Picking words. Words are very important. They are all we have to make ourselves understood. Let the client choose the words because the data model belongs the belongs to the client and describes the client's work. If you try to impose your words on the client, you are likely to create a misunderstanding. Synonyms. Synonyms are words that have the same meaning. For example, task, assignment, and project might all refer to the same real world object. One of these terms, maybe the one in most common use, needs to be selected for naming the entity. Clients need to be told the official name for the entity and encouraged to adopt this term for describing it. Alternatively, create views that enable clients to use their own term. Synonyms are not a technical problem. It is a social problem of getting clients to agree on one word. Homonyms. Homonyms are words that sound the same but have different meanings. Homonyms can create real confusion. Sale date is a classic example. In business, it can have several meanings. To the sales phones, it might be the day that the customer shakes hands and says, "We have a deal." For the lawyers, could be the day when the contract is signed, and for production, it might be the day the customer takes delivery. In this case, the solution is reasonably obvious. Redefine sale date to be separate terms for each area. Easy sales date, contract date, and delivery date for sale, sales, legal and production departments, respectively. Homonyms cause real confusion when clients do not realize that they are using the same word. For the different entities or attributes. Hunt down anonymous anonyms by asking lots of questions and querying a range of clients. Needs to be selected for naming the entity. Clients need to be told the official name for the entity and encourages to the adopt this term.